In this video, we're going to give you some writing tips for the B2 exam. I'm going to talk about 7 different writing tips. Tips for answering questions. We'll talk about word limits. We'll look at choosing questions. We'll talk about the time of your exam. We'll look at the style of your writing. And we will also look at how you can organize your writing. And then finally, how you could do some checking on your work. So let's start with these. Number 1 is answer the question. And this is quite obvious. Now here's an example here. This is an email, and in this question it asks you to write an answer to this email. And what you need to do in this case is to answer these questions. And there are 3 questions here: where to go, what to do, and why. And if you don't answer these questions, you may not get a very good score. So it's important when you're writing just to check and see if you are answering the question correctly. Our second tip is about the word limits, and in this case your limits are 140 to 190 words. It's okay to go a little bit over 190, and 5 or 10 extra words is not a problem. But if you write under 140 words, you probably will not get a very good score. So follow the limit that they give you. Our third tip is about choosing a part 2 exercise you can do. Sometimes people choose a question because it's easy. And like, for example, maybe you like writing emails, so you'd be happy to do that. You're okay with reports. You're not sure perhaps about reviews, and you don't like writing articles. So choose one of the questions that you think you can do, even if you're not too sure about the question. Our fourth tip is about the time, and you need to make sure that you know how much time you have. So your exam is 1 hour and 20 minutes, so that's about 40 minutes for each of the writing exercises. Although usually you'll spend more time on the essay. So in the exam room, you will see a clock in front of you. And if you're doing a computer exam, you can see that the time is counting down on the screen. Our fifth tip is understanding the format and the style of each of the writing exercises. So here are our examples: our essay, our email, article review, and report. So for each of these, you need to make sure you're using the right style, and essays are typically formal. An email can be both. An informal email, or if it's an application email, it would be formal. An article is generally informal. A review can also be both. Sometimes the review is very chatty, and sometimes it's a little bit more formal. And then finally, report is something that is formal. So it is important for you to make sure that you're using the right kind of language, and you're also following the format or the way you need to write each one of these activities. Tip number 6 is using paragraphs. Paragraphs help you to organize your writing. We can see here we have a little diagram, and it's much better to put your writing into something like 3 paragraphs instead of putting it in a single paragraph. It's easier for the examiner to read it, and it's also part of the format of English writing that you should use paragraphs. And our last and final tip is checking your work. And in this case here, you should think about the word form that you're using. So we have some examples here. Plurals may also be a problem. And then perhaps some grammar. Now you may not find everything. It's still important to spend a little bit of time just checking. And we can fix these. Our first one is unforgettable with 2 T's. The second one is comfortable with an M. With our plurals, particular does not have an S. And the same problem here with transport. The word transport in this case does not have an S. And if we look at our grammar, this should be has. And the last one there, the spelling of satisfy. You may not find everything, but it should be possible for you to correct some of the errors that you might have. And all we can say here is best of luck in your exam.